Do you remember the 90s? Man, those were the times. Flannels, Pogs, VHS, me shitting in my pants. Sure, the 1990s spawned the band Creed, but it did have some awesome video games. And when you think of 90s video games, what do you think of? Super Mario 64. Okay, when you think of late 90s collectathons, what do you think of? Spyro the Dragon. I'm not making this segue easy for me, am I? Okay, what's the other big 3D platformer on the Nintendo 64? Banjo-Kazooie. These were the days before Rare decided to take a free fall with the series without a parachute. With a mix of good old friendly characters combined with a dark atmosphere, the series brought something to the table never before seen in the eyes of Mario in the new age. Finally, we got a decent rival to the red-cladded plumber in the 3D world. Like the new Sonic, but not as cringy. Banjo got an awesome sequel, Banjo-Tooie, and there was even a plan for a third entry, Banjo-3, on the GameCube, but of course, Rare was sucked up by the rectangular blob known as Microsoft. Before Rare was completely overtaken, they managed to squeeze out Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. This makes the first and only Banjo game released by Rare that came out on a Nintendo console after being owned by a competitor. And the year? 2003. Which makes the entire thing I was saying earlier about the 90s kind of pointless. At least it got me talking about Banjo. Even though I could have just said Banjo-Kazooie, GameBoy Advance, yada yada yada, jump cut. What the hell am I waiting for? It's about time Banjo-Kazooie got sleazy. Hey look, it's Banjo and Kazooie, everyone's favorite duo since Ryan and Marissa. This game takes place between the first and second game. You may wonder, how does Grunty get her revenge when she's under a boulder and doesn't get out until the sequel? Kalongo makes a Mecha Grunty suit, which becomes a vessel for Gruntilda's soul to exact revenge on the bear and bird. It's basically the plot to Godzilla against Mecha Godzilla. Look, in a world where there's a Jello castle in the sky, I'm not gonna question it. As Momo goes to warn our heroes, Witch Bitch comes along and kidnaps Kazooie. But she doesn't only kidnap her, oh no, she goes back in time to change history. This brings up a lot of questions about time travel. Why not just go back to changing in the first place instead of kidnapping the bird? Is there another Banjo and Kazooie? Is there another Grunty for that matter? Well, nothing is answered, but back to the story. Mumbo sends Banjo to the past, and as you can clearly see, nothing is different. Spiral Mountain is still green, Mumbo is still there, Grunty's lair is being worked on, but it's about accessible as it was in Tooie. If you cut out the dialogue of time travel, I would have never noticed the difference. This whole plot point doesn't accomplish a single thing. It's not needed whatsoever. And that's the whole story. But Banjo's never really been about it. All we care about is the fun collecting and wacky worlds. But does this game have it? Let's find out. Cliff Farm is, well, what it says. Cliff? Check. Farm? Check. Alright, we're in business. Immediately, I understand the whole time travel nonsense. It's so the bottle's replacement character can teach Banjo the most basic things. Like diving, poetry, advanced geometry, cocaine, fine dining, cocaine, and climbing. I don't mean ledge grabbing like in Tooie, no, I mean like ladders. I know Banjo isn't the sharpest instrument in the tool shed, but come on! Surprisingly, this world is decently sized, bigger than what I would have expected. Although, I'm not a big fan of this whole isometric overhead view. Sometimes it's hard to make accurate movements due to me not being sure what's closer and what isn't. Also, I'm playing on the Retron 5, which means I have to use a Super Nintendo controller to play it. This D-pad is not meant for the Game Boy. maybe it's my controller, but sometimes when I hold a direction, Banjo will just jerk off somewhere else on his own. Banjo, stop jerking off! And this happens a lot. You never get used to this, so I'd recommend to play this on the actual Game Boy. Anyways, Cliff Farm is your basic first stage. Collect notes, fight Klungo, save sheep, and you'll be out of here in no time. King Jingaling, or King Ring-a-Ding-Ding, or a King Ding-Dong-Dumb-Dick, whatever his name is, opens the worlds for you if you have enough jigsaw pieces collected in the levels. There's also Honeybee, who gives you more life if you have empty honeycombs to spare. And I'm only mentioning these two characters because Banjo's first encounter with them is in Tooie, which chronologically is after this game. So again, this back in time bullcrap is even more pointless! World 2 is Breagle Beach. Gee, I wonder who's gonna show up here. As Cliff Farm was the Mumbo's Mountain of the game, this world is a treasure trove cove of it. Graphically speaking, this game looks really nice. Look at all the detail here. It really shows just how superior the GBA was to the Game Boy Color. Graphics aside, you'll be running around here trying to find stuff to do, only to be prevented because you don't have your foul-mouthed feathered friend. Honestly, it was pretty ballsy to start the game and strip you of literally half of the protagonist. Spoiler alert, you get Kazooie back in this world, and while it's awesome to have her back and do all the stuff the duo is known for, it does feel like a missed opportunity to have Banjo do some impressive things on his own. Instead, you take away Kazooie, only have her to be rescued in the second world. Where's the build-up? Also, Grunty's whole plan was to capture her in order to split the bear and bird up, defeating them in the process. Once you get her back, why not just go back to the present? You stopped Grunty's plan, what more do you want? I mean, we gotta slide down the slide one more time. Gonna slide to the next stage, which is Bad Magic Bayou. It's like if Mad Monster Mansion and Bubble Shit Swamp had a love child. You know, if worlds could bang. Play tectonic shit. Be careful of the green water, it hurts you. Why? I don't know. Why are there tires everywhere? Again, I don't know. I do know that the perspective problem really comes into play here. A good chunk of this world is on a cliffside, so when you're climbing it, it's hard to tell where the platforms are due to lack of shadows being below them. It's impossible to make an accurate jump without trial and error, and that, my friends, is not good design. Then I get to these enemies, which look like the monsters in Monster Blood 4, and I can't figure out how to kill them. The first time it was mid-build drill, and after that one, no matter what I did to the next one, nothing worked. Literally, nothing. Eventually, I found out that you need to let them get on you, then fidget around, and they'll die. Why make an enemy that only dies when it's literally on you? Give the player some breathing room, why don't you? Look at this area. The vapor scrubs is filled with toxic gas that drains your health. It's not like you're underwater or anything. Banjo will jump back every few seconds, making navigating this place super infuriating. Expect to fall in the poison water a lot, and not dying here at some point is impossible, especially when trying to get the jiggy. I just can't wait to leave this world and move on. On to the next world. What is this, Rusty Bucket Bay? Oh, no, it's Spiller's Arbor. If there's no bucket, I say fuck it. Sorry. Sailor's mouth. More toxic water shit await the bear and bird, but thankfully, Mumbo can turn into an octopus to tackle this section. I would talk about the transformations. Unfortunately, all of them stink nastier than Gruntilda's dirty underwear. Yeah, I know that was disgusting. That's the point. Everywhere else is a race against time. In the beach area, you have to use the shock and invincibility pads to go back and forth for a jiggy, and pretty much have to do the same thing up north. But for the love of Ginginator! Remember when I talked about the horrible SNES D-pad? You want to throw that fucker across the room because this time-based challenge will use every last second. So just one fuck up with the D-pad, or the walls that randomly block you, will make you have to repeat the process all over again. I must have gone through this 69 times before I said, screw it, this isn't worth my troubles. The mix of a jerky D-pad more like douchebag, with perspective issues, it doesn't make it easy. Only two specific things save Spiller's Harbor, one of which is the awesome music. Branching off for a bit, this entire game has pretty great music. Grant Kirkhope, awesome guy, is known for writing a lot of Rare's music like in the Banjo-Kazooie series and Viva Pinata. Apart from the old tracks, Jamie Hughes did the music for Grunty's Revenge, and he does a hell of a job making the song sound like something you hear in Banjo-Tooie. Who is Jamie Hughes? According to Wikipedia, he's a semi-professional English footballer who is notable for becoming the first British footballer to fail a test for a performance-enhancing drug. I don't know why Rare decided to get a drugged-up football player to write music, but hey, it worked out. It just means Nintendo has no excuse not to get Charles Manson to make the music for Super Mario Bros. Your move, Nintendo. Your move. Back on topic, the other thing I like about Spiller's Harbor is this guy. He has an awesome name, and I'm not joking here. It's Alfred P. Cock. His last name is Cock. Cock! I know Rare has made up a lot of adult humor jokes. I mean, look at the Great Mighty Pooh and Conquer. However, I think Mr. Cock takes the cock. I mean cake. There's also a Mecha Gruntzilla, but you can't ignore a cock when you see one. Okay, I'm done with the dick jokes. After this, we arrive at the Freezing Furnace, which is surprisingly the last stage. Not many worlds in this game, although considering the limitations of the GBA, it's probably a good thing. You know, Kazooie and Tooie both had stages that are very different. One had beaches and swamps, with the latter having a shitty fair-like world, and a world that's split between fire and ice. Very different, so as you can tell, Grunty's Revenge has none of that, other than the first world. To be fair, they all seem different in some fashion, like Freezing Furnace being an ice level, but inside lies a fiery factory. I'm a sucker for split element stages as it is, and for a small Game Boy Banjo game, I can't expect super creative levels on par with Cloud Cuckoo Land. No, not the one from the Lego movie. There's only one instance of backtracking, which makes you wonder why they added it at all. Besides that, you can do a little around the hub of Spiral Mountain, doing a few mini games and collecting some jiggies. By the way, fuck this part. It's another time challenge with crappy controls messing me up. With this game not having too much content because it's a small game, you might as well 100% it since it's possible by just sitting in front of your screen for a day. It's not even required for the final boss, which, go figure, is Gruntil Bitch. Firstly, the road to her tower is abysmal, a combination of bitch and abysmal. The only way up there is a switch surrounded by fire. Since moving is so awkward, getting up there to hit the switch and making it down in time without getting hit is a task all on its own. And it shouldn't be that way. No game should try and make you take damage before the final boss. That's artificial difficulty and should never be replicated. The final boss is a gauntlet. You'll fight bitch Tilda first, then a couple of quiz show questions, then Klungo, which, by the way, how the hell was I supposed to know that the fire eggs kill green ghosts? There's literally no part in the game that makes you do this. Sure, the red ones die from ice eggs, that makes sense. However, what does fire eggs have to do with enemies you find in the haunted house? After some trial and error, we make it to the top where Mecha Grunty awaits. Hit her a few times and she'll revert back to her ghost form. This BS sucks because you never know which is the real one, and I know that's the challenge, but even if you swear it's the right one, it still couldn't. Banjo takes a lot of damage throughout the gauntlet, or at least most players would. So when you get all the way to the last part and die from a randomized factor, it's like shitting in reverse. After Bitch Witch is defeated, she returns back to her decaying body, awaiting until Banjo-Tooie, which happened 3 years earlier. Well, we'll have to wait until Nuts and Bolts, but who really counts that anyways? And that's Banjo-Kazooie, Grunty's Revenge. What went wrong? Unfortunately, seeing anything Banjo-related go poorly hurts me because it's one of my favorite series ever. I mean, I love the Bear and Bird, so I was really disappointed when playing through this game again because flaw after flaw just kept rising up. I'm glad they went with the isometric view. It's the only style I can think of that would fit a portable Banjo game of that era. What went wrong is, graphically speaking, there's not enough shadows to distinguish distance between Banjo and the player. Banjo doesn't even move as smooth as I feel he should be, making general moving and doing, well, anything a chore. I understand the game isn't fully 3D, after all it's still a Game Boy game, but there are plenty of games that allow you to move smoother than this. The story is trying to be more complicated than it is. Grunty's ghost inhabits a mechanical suit, then she kidnaps Kazooie, and Banjo adventures across the land to rescue his partner and stop Grunty from being evil. See? Nothing about time travel! The stuff they could have done with it was a wasted opportunity, which makes the fact that it was added and was poorly implemented is just another stain on the game. The individual worlds can get a pass considering they try to change things up while still being familiar, but if you step back and look at them all jiggy-wise, there's a lot of cookie-cutter missions with nothing really interesting going on. The difficulty goes up quite nicely, but it's injected with artificial difficulty like with the strict time challenges, enemies you can't comprehend, and the entire horse crap that is the final fight. I will admit that the dialogue from everyone is just what you expect from the BK cast. Just sucks that this could have been a pretty solid game. Don't get me wrong, I had fun playing this regardless of the problems. Sure, they are stacking on each other and you keep noticing all the repeating things, but maybe it's the awesome music and enjoying Banjo back before it got rebranded that made me not hate this game as much as I probably should. If you're a fan of the Banjo-Kazooie series, I say check this game out. Does it have flaws? Hell yeah it does. But with those aside, it'll remind you that there was a time when a bear and bird ruled the world. And I think that's good enough.